So we're learning the second section of Tanya, Shari Yichud Ve'emunah. We're on page 158, the last line, the second word on the line. The Balatanya here introduced a very important idea, the idea being that when Hashem created the world, when Hashem thought of creating the world, he thought he wanted to create the world with gvura, with restrictions and discipline and limitations, in Hebrew known as gvura, or midas hadin, the attribute of judgment. And he saw that the world can't handle it, won't be able to handle it, so he partnered, he gave the attribute of din a partner, the midah of rachamim, of mercy. And the Alter Rebbe is saying in this continuation of the brackets that he began at the end of chapter 4, that this is a similar, the reason for this is because when we talk about judgment as a method of creating, it doesn't mean judgment as a blockage, because you can't create from a blockage. Simply speaking, Mark, in order to create something, to make something, there has to be positivity there. You can't hold back. I hold back, and at the same time, I'm giving. You know, when we talk about, let's say, tough love, tough love is within love. It's not within judgment. The application of love in the form of tough love is tough love. But the purpose, the ideology of tough love is to give, to help. But if I'm going to give you the knife and you're a child, you're going to cut yourself and hurt yourself. So I'm showing the love to you by holding back. If we use this as an example, this explains also what the Alter Rebbe is saying over here. That when Hashem when Hashem thought of creation, wanted to create the world, it wasn't that he said, I want to create the world with judgment and block out God from the world, restrict God. That's not creation. That's holding back. What this means is that he wanted to create with judgment, as judgment is part of God's infinity. Because as soon as you say God is infinite and Hashem is infinite, this means that the power of infinity includes both giving, in the application of giving and seeing that it's being given and felt that it's being given. And it's also simultaneously true that for the betterment of creatures, he alters, filters, harnesses that giving, which is the concept of judgment of Gevura. Also, why, if that's the case, why didn't God create the world with judgment? Why does the Medrash say that God shitef, God partnered, made within the judgment in his thought that when he wanted to create the world, mercy. And this is what he starts explaining today. Let's go right to the text, the bottom of 158. Dahainu, the last line, the second word. Dahainu, Rachamim refers to Ha'izgalos Elikuz, the revelation of godliness, Al Yidei Tzaddikim, through the righteous people, righteous individuals amongst the Jewish people known as Tzaddikim, top of page, pay now, next page. V'oises and moisim, and signs and miracles, Shabbat Torah, within the Torah. Now these 5 words or so are very, very short, and we really don't know what he's trying to say, but this is what he's trying to say. This is what he's saying. The Alter Rebbe is saying, mercy, shitef by mercy, is the element within creation that shatters convention. You see, one way would be to say like this: God created the world with nature, and nature dominates. And from time to time, there's a miracle, there's a sign, there's a revelation, of godliness through these great people called Tzaddikim, but it's not part of creation. It's inserted and imposed on creation. What the Alter Rebbe is saying here, wrong. It's part of creation, but the format of Ram that it takes in being part of creation is that it comes in the way of a sign, a miracle, and through tzaddikim. And he adds the word Shabbat Torah. On the top of the first line on page P, the third word Shabbat Torah. Why does he have to add the word Shabbat Torah? The Hainu is galus elikus al yidei tzaddikim v'oisas amayvsim. All of that is the shitaf boy midas arachamim. What is the expression that God partnered and in creation, having a simultaneous, all equal part of God within creation? It's both judgment, restriction, and revelation. Fine. What does it have to say, Shabbat Torah? So this is a very important word, and this explains everything. Why? Because when you look at things from the perspective of Torah, both judgment, i.e. restriction, and tzaddikim, and revelation, and miracles are all part of Torah. In other words, if not for God is saying in the Torah that tzaddikim and miracles are all not just an imposition to nature, but part of nature, they would be perceived as an imposition. And then, what would be the feeling? Isser, what would be our feeling? What's the difference whether we say tzaddikim, signs and miracles are an imposition on nature or it's part of nature? It's part of creation. The difference is in the reality. Not just from our perspective, from Hashem's perspective, are tzaddikim, signs and miracles, are they an integral part of what he created? Or no, they're an adjunct. And that's the answer. If it wouldn't say Shabbat Torah, then it would mean that they're important, but they're an adjunct to creation. And if you say it's an adjunct to creation, then you're stripping God from that aspect of creation, and it would be lacking in unity. So God's unity, the Achdus Hashem that we talk about, Einoig Milvade, there's nothing besides God, and everything is God, and etc., requires, because God says, I want this, that it should be not an adjunct to creation, but actually an integral part of creation. And this also explains when we go to a tzaddik, and now this coming Sunday is the Rashbi, and Issa just said that this year they're celebrating it in Ramat Bet Shemesh. So, lahavdil, I'm going to say lahavdil elav avdolis, without any comparison. It's like, the home team, so the whole city, if the World Series is here or the Super Bowl is between, the Phillies, not the Phillies, the Eagles, and another team from the East Coast or Midwest, and they're hosting it in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl or in Nevada, everyone comes and the city makes millions and millions of dollars, right? The idea that miracles and tzaddikim are part of creation means they're the home team. So when I go to the Rashbi, this Sunday is Lag BaOmer. It's such a holy day. It's the celebration of Pnimius HaTorah. Okay? We have the idea that Rabbi Akiva, the students of Rabbi Akiva didn't respect each other, and they stopped dying this Sunday. It's one of the reasons for the celebration. The other reason, and in a way, the greater reason, is the one who authored, the tradition is the Zohar, the Holy Zohar. He passed away on Lag BaOmer, and he wanted everyone to rejoice on that day because the soul ascends to a higher level. Yes, Moshe.
Rabbi Dalfin, can you just forgive me just to go back for a second? Have to take a half a step back. when would we ever say that something, let's say, is not a part of creation?
When the Medrash, good question. The Medrash says that initially God wanted to create the world with judgment. Judgment means no tzaddikim, no miracles, just tit for tat, nature. That's what the Medrash says. God had that thought initially. He saw that the world is not capable of handling it, right? It's too restrictive. It's too mean. It won't accomplish the purpose. So God partnered and brought in mercy. That's what it says in Medrash. Mercy meaning the Yud Kei Vav Kei. And the Alter Rebbe defines that in more practical words that God revealed himself vis-a-vis tzaddikim, miracles, and signs, which is out of the ordinary, and not just inserted it. He said, din, judgment. I can't create a world just with judgment, just with nature. I want to create a world that has this as an integral ingredient of the world. So when you call upon a tzaddik and you believe in a tzaddik, and you ask for the tzaddik to intercede on your behalf, to pray for you, your family, your friends, your country, and everything else, it's not that you're doing something outside of God. It's just as much God. But there is the way God expresses himself in nature, and there is the way God expresses himself in the supernatural, i.e., tzaddikim, miracles, signs, etc. Let's continue. V'hinei, top of page Pei. Azeh omru b'Zoyar, says the Alter Rebbe. This is also supported by a statement in the Zoyar. The le'ela, above, meaning in the world of Atzilus, in the holy world of emanation, in the world of closeness to God. Besitri de kedusha yilo, on the side of holiness, supernal side of holiness, is yemina, there is the right, is smaller, and there is the left. Dahainu, this means chesed gvura, that in Atzilus there is the chesed of God, the kindness of God, and there is the restriction, the judgment of God. Pirush, the shteyen hein midas elikus. Look, Isser, this is what he says. Both are equal attributes of godliness. L'mayla meseichel anivroyim, which transcend the logic of creatures, vasagosam, and their comprehension. The iu v'garmei echad, because God and his causations, meaning, and all of his midos are one. B'olam atzilus, in olam atzilus. So this is proof. This piece of Zohar is proof to what the Alter Rebbe said earlier, a moment ago, that this idea of both din and rachamim, i.e., both Shem Elokim and Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, as being just as much part of Hashem, is supported by the saying in the Zohar. Now he questions, but wait a second. We know Moshe Rabbeinu, for example, who was the greatest prophet. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have comprehension as Moses was on earth. He didn't perceive the level of Atzilus, the level of closeness to God, as great as he was, and he was our Moshe, our teacher. And he took us out of Mitzrayim, of Egypt. Yeah, Moshe is great, Mark. He's a great guy. But don't tell me that he is as great as Atzilus. Look what he says. And even the comprehension that Moshe had. While he prophesied, while he was a prophet, was not at the level of Atzilus. Ella, it was rather al yidei slapshusay, as it was invested b'olam abriya, in the world of creation, the second and lower world. And it wasn't a perception that was equal, both through kindness and severity. I'll explain in a moment better. Moshe's understanding of God was as the pure attributes invest himself in something that's lower, which is the midos of splendor, of victory, netzach, endurance, hoid, which is splendor and acknowledgement, and yesod, which is the foundation. Meaning like this. When you compare the attributes of chesed and gvura, chesed, how does chesed express itself? Kindness, Moshe. Kindness expresses itself that it's all out kindness to the point nothing can stop it. That's a notion of netzach, endurance. Nothing. In other words, if you're really a bal chesed, then nothing will get in the way. Even when there's obstacles, you'll overcome. That's the concept of netzach. Gevura, judgment, restriction, is the idea of discipline. Hoid, acknowledgement. You know that Lag BaOmer is, right, is the midah is hoid shebahoid, hoid within hoid. Right? Acknowledgement, acceptance is follow, listen. I just put up a clip, I might have sent it to you guys, about the chassid. I'm doing now a series on different chassidim, what we can learn from them. And I did the first one, was Reb Nissen Nemanov, the famous Pashpia in the Brunois, France yeshiva, the Chabad yeshiva, who excelled in Kabbalah soil, discipline. So, Gevura, which is the power of discipline, how does it express itself? In acceptance. Hoid is acceptance. Netzach is endurance, determination. Hoid is acceptance. And both netzach and hoid express themselves in yesod, which is the foundation. What do you mean the foundation? It builds man. A person that's weak in either of the two is missing in their manhood. You hear that? I'll repeat that. A person who's lacking in some of their chesed and in some of their gevura, in some of their netzach and some of their hoid, is missing full manhood. What do I mean? What do I mean? That they're strong in being kind, very nice. But when it comes to saying no and limiting and restricting, they fall apart. Then there are people who are great disciplinarians. They can say no and all that. When it comes to giving and being kind and benevolent and all that, they lack in that area. So both of them, when both put together, is basically yesod, or as we say in English, charisma, a charismatic person. A charismatic person means the person has a good blend, an excellent blend of chesed and gvura, of netzach and hoid. Where is it that that's expressed? In yesod, the foundation. Right? The foundation of a building, Moshe, is the place where either the building is going to exist or not exist. I told you, I think, when Rabbi Shlomo Kuhn, my employer, the head shliach of the state of California, when I was working for him in Marin County, and he asked me once to pick him up at the San Francisco airport, I took him out to the Chabad house in Berkeley. I don't know if any of you have been there on forget the name of the street, Waring Avenue, I think. It was a former fraternity house, and they bought it. It was a Chabad house. And then he went to see the mikveh. They had built a mikveh there, a women's mikveh, kosher mikveh. And he gets out of the car, and the first thing he does, he goes under the building. I never saw this, I was, in my late 20s, still a relatively young man, and here this Rabbi Kuhn, who's built Chabad in California, is lying on the floor, crawling under the building. He came out, and I said, Rabbi Kuhn, what are you doing? He says, what am I doing? I want to see if I'm being assessed on the house and taxes and insurance and this and that. I have to know what the house is worth. If there's an issue with the foundation, everything on top is worthless. If the foundation is strong and there's issues with the cosmetics, big deal. Like Moshe Drucker moved into a beautiful place in Fort Lauderdale, and he's fixing it up. You can turn ugly cosmetics into beauty, right? The question is the foundation. In Kabbalah and Hasidus, we have a concept called Yisoid, Avram, the foundation. Is the foundation strong? Says the Alter Rebbe here, the foundation is strong when you have a good mix of Chesed and Gevurah. And that's true in life. A person who's strong in either or is not the ultimate. You'll find many people who are unbelievable, kind people, Balei Tzedakah, but when it comes to the displaying Gevurah, which we need at times, judgment, restriction, holding back, saying no, on and on, they have nothing of it. They can't. There's no one home. Then you have other people that can only say no and only be judgmental and blah, 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 blah. When it comes to chesed, they don't have it. Those individuals are not the ultimate. They're not wholesome. Someone who has a mixture of both, and the right mixture is wholesome. So that's what I meant when I said they're lacking or in their manhood. That's what I meant. If someone is only chesed or only gvura, they're lacking in their manhood. When they have the combination of both, their manhood is wholesome. Now I'm saying all this because the Alter Rebbe says here, as he explains, that Moshe Rabbeinu, as great as Moshe was, and especially when he prophesied, it wasn't in Atzilus. Why? Because Atzilus, the world of Atzilus is the world of godliness. Every creature, including a tzaddik, including Moshe Rabbeinu, is not created from Atzilus. It's created from Bria, right? Creation begins in Bria. Within Bria, there are different souls and different experiences. That's what he says here. Let's continue. Nevertheless, the reward for tzaddikim, began Eden in paradise, who asagas is pashtus achayis, it's the comprehension of the extension of the energy of God, and the light that's drawn mishtei midas elu from these two attributes, chesed and gvura, v'hu mazon neshamas tzaddikim, and this is the food of tzaddikim. If you were ever wondering what type of Cheerios or Wheaties the tzaddikim are eating, spiritually speaking, metaphorically speaking, in Gan Eden in paradise, it's the Alter Rebbe says here in the name of Kabbalah what that is. V'hu mazon neshamas tzaddikim. This is the food for the souls of tzaddikim. She'oska b'Torah l'shma, who study Torah for the sake of Torah, not any ulterior sake, but the sake of Torah b'olam hazeh while on earth. Because when these two attributes of chesed and gvura are extended, nimtach rakia ala neshamas, there spreads itself a heaven kind of over the soul shebegan Eden, v'rakia zeh nikra, and this heaven we call Raza Daraisa, the secret of Torah, the esoteric idea of Torah, and in it there are the secrets behind the 22 letters of the Torah, Hanesuna Mishtei Midasel, that the secrets have been given from these two attributes of Chesed Gvura, as it says, Miyaminoi, Yamin is the right. The right represents what? Kindness, chesed. Eish das, a fire of religion. Fire, Moshe, is gevura. Miyaminoi eish das lamai. The Torah is given from the right. It's a burning religion. It's a Torah that has both kindness and restriction. So from this heaven, from this spiritual reality, there drips dew as food to the souls. This is kind of the food that the souls eat. We're talking metaphorically speaking in Gan Eden. They know the secrets of the 22 secrets of Torah. However, this explains why a Rashbi, Reb Shimon, or the Rebbe, or another tzaddik, why we go to them and why we accept their words as God's words. Why? Because they're living with this reality. You and I don't know the secrets of the 22 letters of the Torah. Right? They'll say, my name is Moshe, my name is Isser, my name is Avraham, my name is Chaim. Very nice. What does that mean? Okay, Chaim is life, Avraham is Abraham, etc., etc. But what's the spiritual energy that's communicated through these names and through all words, Hebrew words of the Torah? We don't know. Guess who knows? The Tzaddikim. So when a tzaddik, when you go to a tzaddik and you ask him to daven to Hashem to intercede on your behalf for parnasa and shidduchim and health and whatever else, the tzaddik is identifying with the letters of Torah. And this is very important because those that don't have tzaddikim, let's say the Litvische world, they have gedolim, very good. But this concept that an individual can identify and be included in the secrets of Torah as expressed in the letters of Torah, this is not this is a Baal Shem Tov concept. Yes, Moshe.
Is that, I'm assuming that is why when one goes to see a Rebbe, one gives a kvittel. Is that correct? Names.
Yeah, right. One gives a kvittel with the names, if that's the minig, because you want the Rebbe, the tzaddik, to either read the names, think about the names, look at the names, and see what the Torah says about those names and draw a blessing into those names. That's correct. But it's not only names of people and children and family, which of course is true. It's the overall idea. In other words, Isser wants to know, should I live in Tokyo and take a job as a doctor? Should I live in China? Should I live in Eretz Yisrael? Goes to his Rebbe. And his Rebbe, if you believe in that Rebbe as a tzaddik, you believe that what he tells you is the oisis HaTorah that are for you. So he expresses it by saying, in any language, go here or there or do this or that. But it's coming from the oisis HaTorah, the words of the Torah. And that's also, by the way, they talk about people putting in letters into Igros Kodesh or the Gra, right? In Shulchan Aruch, in the Darkei Chaim, I believe, in Yeredeya, he brings from the Gra that they had what's called the Goyrel HaGra, and they weren't Chassidim, they were Litvaks. We would open up a Chumash, and whatever the Chumash opened to, he would find there something relevant to the question that was being asked of him, which is analogous, to an opening of Igros Kodesh or things like that. So what's the idea, whether you're Chassid or non-Chassid or Litvak, what's the difference? What's the idea? The idea is the Oisis HaTorah. Because it's the guidance of Torah that has the charisma. Torah is charismatic. Torah is wholesome. Torah sees the whole picture, not just part of the picture. In other words, when you come to a tzaddik and you seek their guidance, they're giving you, in those few words, they're giving you a whole picture. Yeah, you would like it to be a long essay, fully written and scripted. It's not that way. Right? But that's what the Alter Rebbe is saying here. You should know that it's the Oisis HaTorah. Let me just finish. And he says, Ki arikia zeh useid hadas, because this spiritual heaven that hovers over the tzaddikim is the secret idea of das. Das has chesed and gvura, as we learned at the end of chapter 3 in Tanya. Right? It has both chesed and gvura, kindness and severity, kindness and judgment. Torah study is the food for the souls in Gan Eden. In our observance of mitzvahs, Heim levushim, we create garments so the soul is not cold, is not hot, putting on the right clothing for the right time, right season, spiritually speaking. Kemevur Kol Zeh has explained all this. Bezoyer Vayakol Daf Reish Tes V'Reish Yud, and Zohar there, Uvei Chaim Shar Mem Dalet Perek Gimel. And tomorrow we'll continue Mitzvah Shem with the next chapter. So we went a little fast, but it'll do for now because that's what we can handle right now. So I can to everyone. See you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.